We're very happy to be here today. Whoops. And I would like to welcome very much my panelists today as well. We have Aiga, General Counsel at Billie, Anna, who's Deputy General Counsel at Delivery Hero, and Tanja, you're the General Counsel at Movinga. Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you all for listening as well. My name is Natalie Hsiao. I'm a Senior Associate at Greenberg Traurig, and I'm a tech and M&A and VC lawyer, basically, here in our Berlin office. Greenberg Traurig has been a sponsor of the NOAH conference and a partner of NOAH for a really long time. We, for those of you who don't know us yet, we are a law firm based in the US, but with offices across the globe. We have 40 offices across the globe, about 2,000 lawyers, and we advise all players from the tech industry, typically on the VC, PE side, but also startups and strategic investors. It helps to have offices across the world, like obviously in the Silicon Valley. We have offices in New York, in London, Amsterdam, Milan, Tel Aviv, Seoul even, and of course we have a presence here in Berlin. We try to solve all your legal problems from incorporation to exit. We also have specialists, some of them are sitting over there, who specialize in things like fintech regulatory advice, or who can help you with your licensing agreements, with ESOPs, IT, IP, and things like that. But without much further ado, I'd like to move over to my panelists, who also solve legal problems every single day, and who have a lot of experience to share with us. Ladies, the companies you work for are actually quite well known already. I don't think they need any introduction, but why don't you say something about what your role is within the company, and maybe share with the audience one piece of information that people don't know yet about the companies. Anna, you're laughing. Do you want to start?
Sure, then I don't have enough time to think about this one piece of information. Hi, I'm Anna, happy to be here. I'm Deputy General Counsel, as already introduced, and I'm responsible for corporate law, M&A, and capital markets at Delivery Hero. I'm doing online food delivery since 4.5 years now. Started with Foodpanda, and with the sale to Delivery Hero, we were integrated in the bigger company. So I was lucky enough to be part of the IPO. And now something you don't know about Delivery Hero. I hope you don't mean any inside information, Natalie?
No, of course not.
That would be a problem, but yeah, maybe the fact that our legal department is already quite big. We have 35 employees.
Wow.
Only doing legal, so these are the guys behind the scenes.
Well done. Tanja, do you want to?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tanja. Thank you for having me here. This is my first panel, and also I'm a bit nervous. What is Movinga doing? We operate moves, so if you would like to move, just call us. And well, I'm the only lawyer in the company. This is the fact most of our employees don't know yet, I guess, and so they're waiting for information or for legal advice a bit longer than they expect.
Sounds good.
Hi, my name is Aiga. Thanks for being here, for being interested in this. I work for Billie. I worked for Billie for 2 years, heading the legal and compliance department. I co-founded the company, so I was really there from the very beginning. One maybe interesting fact, what people don't know. We are a factoring company, so I hope you know that. We are a factoring company. We provide financial services, and when you start a company doing that, you will think about whether you want to work together with a bank that kind of rents out their license, or whether you want to get your own license. We opted to get our own license, and we got this license from BaFin within 3 months and with like 0 external lawyer costs. So that's what I'm also quite proud of.
Well done, congratulations. Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. So the purpose of our panel session today is to share a bit of your experiences and to share a bit of insight into startup life from the perspective of a legal counsel or a general counsel. Surely the founders here in the audience know it's quite expensive to hire lawyers or to hire a legal team. Many of you probably only have one legal counsel, one general counsel, or even no one at all. Or you help yourselves with a student who studies law and who is an intern or something. We thought it would be interesting for the audience to basically share some of your experience of startup life. Aiga, I would actually like to start with you. Now, you're a very seasoned investor. You have lots of experience with investing rounds. What is your some of the biggest legal challenges you faced so far in financing rounds?
I think with financing round, especially when you are a regulated company, you will have to know that your investors might have to go through like a BaFin clearance process.
BaFin is the German regulator,
yes,
by the way?
the German regulator. That's a very, very timely and underwriting process, really. And I think what you need to know from the company, although you are not the person that has to go to the regulator and declare and show who they are, you will definitely have to tell the investor because they will probably not know. And also you have to kind of design the deal around it. You can have, like, for example, work with authorized capital structures so that you can get money as early in the company as you can and then get the BaFin clearance later. And also what's very, very important when you are in a regulated company is just to know this clearance will probably be given by BaFin, even if it's not a very complex structure within like 3 to 6 months. So make sure you raise early enough to have this time in the end, because an investor that invests more than 10% will not be allowed to give that money to the company before they get the BaFin clearance.
3 to 6 months is actually quite a long time for a young startup to survive, I guess, before they see the funding. Do you want to say something about authorized capital? Maybe not everyone in the audience.
Authorized capital is like the way we structure our funding rounds when we have a new lead investor. In the A round, this, for example, was Creandum, and Creandum immediately got over 10%. So you can have the round, you can have the financing round. Everybody sitting in the notary actually legally bound to invest, but only the existing shareholders directly give the money, and the management is authorized to then do another capital increase once the BaFin clearance is there. So you can do that in one deal. You don't, but it takes. We went to the notary in November, and we got the money from Creandum in the next July. And I think they did a really good job. They were quick and everything, but that's just how long it takes.
Yeah. Oh wow, wonderful. Anna, you do a lot of M&A at Delivery Hero. I listened to Niklas Esberg, the CEO of Delivery Hero, yesterday, who was on stage with Marco on the main stage, and he was saying that Delivery Hero no longer just invests or no longer just buys competitors, but also along the value chain, further up and further down, to sort of expand the services. Can you comment a bit on that?
Yeah, sure. Indeed. The first kind of phase of M&A transactions at Foodpanda and Delivery Hero and later on was definitely to buy competitors, to be the biggest player in the market. This is kind of there at the moment, and of course there's still companies which we are interested in. We still do acquisitions, but we have widened our portfolio quite a lot and do investments as well. So there are sometimes very interesting technologies, for example, where we would like to partner up and to support these companies. Worldwide companies actually, where we are looking into, where our strategy department also is quite busy finding interesting companies where we can invest into.
Okay, interesting. And at what point sort of do you start engaging your external lawyers? Do you do it at all?
Well, I think one of the success keys of the very great M&A practice at Delivery Hero is that we do have 2 in-house teams. We have a strategy team which is doing IR, but also M&A only, and we have an own M&A team in the legal department. So this is why we're actually able to do this very quickly, to do this very determined. Yes, of course, we work together with external lawyers because we do M&A all over the globe, and we need sometimes also advice on foreign jurisdictions for sure. In Germany, we do sometimes. It depends, really. Sometimes we do it ourselves. Sometimes we don't have the capacity anymore because we're working on 15 deals at the same time. Or we just would like to, I don't know, to get some special experience of special lawyers. So, of course, external lawyers are also very important. And usually what I try to do is to engage them at a quite early stage when we're starting to negotiate a term sheet, or at least when we have a clear understanding of what we want to achieve from commercial perspective and like very bigger points on legal side. Then we start to cooperate with for example, foreign external advisors. So we, for example, don't miss any particularities of this jurisdiction.
Right.
Because otherwise, even the structuring of the deal can be a wrong one if you start too late asking, like, how does it work actually in Ecuador?
Yeah, and it's obviously very advisable to start it. If you're engaging your lawyers, to engage them as early on as possible in the process. They can help you structure better. They can pinpoint red flags or problems that you might have later on that you can avoid at an early stage. Tanja, when you started out at Movinga, the company was kind of in a financially difficult situation. Why don't you share a bit of insight about those times and also how the insolvency of the main competitor, Move24, then kind of played into your hands?
Sure. Well, we had less money. We needed to take a closer look to who can we pay and who can't we pay. Not only the employees, but also our suppliers, which operate our core business. What made it very difficult to operate properly, because if we don't pay them, they won't do the moves, which could have led to a situation to just cut the business at all. So we try to make up budgets per week or per every 2 weeks, and then the departments had to define who will be paid now and who will be paid now, who will not be paid now. Yeah, even we had a month when the employees had to wait for a couple of more days before they received their salary, but nobody left because of this. And what I can say now, even when I came into the company, they made me wait for about 1 or 2 months. At this point, I didn't know what's wrong, and I was at a point thinking about maybe I shouldn't start at this company if they can't even tell me why they leave me waiting, but now I can say it's because we had a Black Friday then.
Right.
And coming back to the Move24 competitor, which is not operating anymore, which is good for us because we had this competitive court proceeding going on, and now that they had to go into this insolvency, made them not able to run this process any longer. So yes, we can say we made this court proceeding, but actually it's just because they don't operate any longer.
Thank you. Aiga, after the financing round and after the after party comes the regulatory headache. What's your worst regulatory headache? Or what has it been in the past?
I think it's not that bad when you keep the relationship with the regulators. However, I think this uncertainty is just really, really annoying. We kind of keep collecting licenses. We got an account information servicing licenses last year and a collections license, and they just sometimes don't really you just really have to push them to do everything. Like you have to really project management, call them every day, make sure that they know that you are waiting for things from their side. So and they always you won't sue the regulator, right? So because you always have to find some kind of compromise and agreement and give in a little, and that just can make me very angry because I think I'm right, and I'd rather have this going to discussion rather than giving in just because this would be a bit nicer like this, a bit like that. So I think it's the uncertainty. And regulator change, the kind of like the person that is in charge for you changes a lot, has a different perspective on things. These are all things that definitely make it rather hard. And is it that these people have so many other startups that are applying for licenses, or so many other banks or financial institutions applying for these licenses, or why is it that it's taking so long?
Or are they just, is it so complex that they need so much time to get into the
rumors
topic?
right now say that the German regulator BaFin is like full up to here because of Brexit.
Oh, right.
So supposedly everything that usually takes 3 months takes like 6 months or a year.
Crazy.
So they just have to do a lot more things. In general. And that's also something that we experienced when we got our first license. When you have somebody that is interested in your job, in your business, and thinks, oh great, this is a new startup, I want to work with them. It can be very smooth and quick. So it's a bit of a potluck there.
Right. Okay. Anna, you've done the most prominent financing round that a company can go through, which is the IPO. What, in your opinion, is a great way, from a legal perspective, to prepare for an IPO, to prepare the company for the IPO?
Oh, wow. To answer this question satisfactorily probably would go beyond the scope of this panel. But
maybe pick one or two.
Yeah, I will try to focus just maybe on a couple of points. So I think a very important point is start early to build a team which is capable to do that. Because it's a lot of work, it's crazy work. And also you need to really to get to know your company. And usually startups have a very high fluctuation. There are people who just started to work in the company 2 months ago and then they have to prepare the IPO.
That happened to me when I was at Rocket, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, that happened to me at DH as well. But nevertheless, if I could give you an advice, if you really think about an IPO, get a good legal team. Don't be afraid of the costs, because in the end it will save you a lot of costs and time and headache. This is maybe an important thing. Start building a compliance system early enough, because you won't do this in the last 6 months prior to the IPO. You have enough other stuff to do. Yeah. You can't do everything in parallel. And maybe also get some systems into place, for example, a good contract management, a good corporate housekeeping. This is also why you need a good team, a legal team, for example, but not only. So you're able to do a proper due diligence when it comes to the preparation of the prospectus, because that's a huge work.
Yeah, as I can tell from experience as well.
Yeah, I
Tanja.
hope that's enough.
You're an expert on data protection law, as I've learned, and we all know not only tech companies, but literally every single company in this country or on this continent has to deal with data protection law issues or data protection topics. And we kind of know that it's a bit of an eternal struggle between the legal department and the salespeople or the business team. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, well, management always tells me you are the conversion rate killer.
The conversion rate killer,
yes.
Is that what they say?
This is what they say, but I think I'm not. I'm more like finding a unique bullet point. But for example, our funnel, customer come to the funnel, give their information to get an offer, but of course we have to talk to them first to give a proper offer, so we call them. We call them pretty fast, I'd say, and most of them don't expect this. I'm not sure. Anyway, we don't used to tell them that we will call them this fast. So customer tried to complain, and they went to the authority of data protection and so on. Wow. And it's a nicer way to just tell them, hey, we will call you, even if you give your number, and actually it's clear when you give your number, we will call you, but this is what I wanted to have on the first page, stating if you give us your data, we will, of course, operate with this.
Do something with the data.
We will do something with this, even though this is clear, but no conversion rate, customers won't come to us any longer. They will stop clicking through the funnel and so on.
So in order to not have a conversion rate killer, maybe as a general question to all of you, what should a founder look for in a legal counsel when they're first hiring their legal team? And what should they maybe look for when they're hiring their external lawyers?
I've made quite a good experience in being the founder and the legal person in one go. I do think, especially when in some areas, probably like insurance, health, probably mobility, fintech, it makes a lot of sense having an in-house lawyer, because you just really know the company and you're willing to take the risk and understand where the risk lies and how you can manage. Also, I've had the experience that regulators like seeing that person and the company who's there when they talk to you, rather than with your lawyer. That has helped us. we don't work so much with external counsel, but in general there I would always advise on having a few and really in specialized areas, especially when you have a very small legal in-house team, you do want to have sparring partners and things that you think, is this correct? Can you double check?
Makes sense. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely agree. But I think even if it's not a regulated business, I mean, as soon as you have, costs or legal fees of, let's say, more than 150K per year, I would think it makes sense to have an in-house lawyer, to be honest. It's usually cheaper then. And of course, you will still need some external advice, but it's then more, you need a connecting point between the CEO and the external lawyers sometimes, and it helps a lot to have somebody who's experienced. I know it's not that easy to find the perfect lawyer who's super well trained, but super pragmatic. Nevertheless, he does tell you, don't do that, because if he doesn't, you don't need him, to be honest.
Of course. And hopefully they don't cost much. That's also something that people worry about a lot.
But in my opinion, it does make sense to start with at least a small legal department quite early in the business, because it will save you a lot of mistakes, and the cleanup is usually much more painful and much more expensive than setting up things correctly from the beginning.
Yeah.
May I disagree a little bit on that? I think if you have too many lawyers, they're going to start reading the T's and C's from the printer, and start commenting on stuff like this. They will keep themselves busy. So that's what I learned from being in a law firm myself. Yeah. Maybe you have one and keep that person busy, so he or she will not have time to
read
look at everything.
Printouts at the printer.
I see your point. I'm not telling to have 10 people in-house department when you have 50 people working for a startup and not even having a Series A round. Absolutely agree. But at some point when it's getting too complex and when you have more than a couple of German limited liability companies and you don't get the point as a non-lawyer, it might be helpful.
So, I mean, talking about being a busy lawyer, how much of your daily work is actually legal work and how much is recruiting or conference calls, talking to investors?
It's hard to say, but I'd say 80% of my work is legal, hard legal work.
Okay, well, then you're quite lucky, because I think
in my case it's the other way around.
Okay.
Actually, I really like doing transactions. This is where I started my career with a law firm doing M&A, and I would love to do more M&A, but unfortunately having a team of 13 people does not allow it anymore that much. So it's a lot of HR work, management, budget, and all that. But I try to keep my job as interesting as possible by at least sometimes doing a transaction on myself or together with some colleagues.
Excellent. Well, I guess we have to come to a close of our panel session very soon, as we're running out of time. Maybe for the sake of the audience, I'd like to ask you for one final piece of advice to sort of your younger self, your younger professional self. If you'd known back then what you know now, what would you advise a young founder? Or a young general counsel, legal counsel?
I would advise them to not take everything for granted what the investors are giving and telling you. For example, our core investors, they gave the employment contracts and Movinga just took it as it is. And we had
as in the templates for the employment contracts, okay?
Yes, and we had a competitive clause in it with a compensation clause, but for every single employer, meaning part-time, full-time, even students, and all of them are asking now, have been asking, for this compensation, which is a huge amount. It has been a 6-digit amount for us, and it's really a lot of money if you don't have any.
Crazy. Yeah, so maybe for a bit of background, typically directors, they get this non-compete clause in their employment contract, and then the non-compete gets kind of compensated by a compensation provision, which provides that for the time that they are not allowed to compete, they get a compensation. And this obviously now applies to your students as well. Okay, what about you?
I think if I had to build a legal department again myself, I would be even more strict with choosing by quality. Sometimes in the beginning, when you're alone and you're super desperate, like, oh my gosh, there's so much work. I have to do compliance and legal and everything myself. So let's build a team super, super quickly. Doesn't work that well.
Okay.
I mean, you can be lucky. I was lucky with many people, but take your time for the hiring process. I think this also can be translated to the CEO. So that's important. To have the right people on board is key.
Right, and maybe one last sentence, and then we're out of time.
My younger self would probably not have listened to this older self. So, and also I think it's really hard to give advice to somebody who is starting in a company. There will be so many individual little problems. If I had known all of them, I probably wouldn't have done it. So I think just do it and you know.
Just go for it and have fun, basically. Yeah. Well, thank you all, ladies, very much for this session. I'm very happy to have had you here, and
thank you for inviting me.
Kudos to you guys.